way back in 2003, I walked into my brother's apartment in Memphis, and I saw this book sitting on the floor. It had a bright red stripe on the bottom with white lettering, simple, that said the Bikeriders. The photograph on top was a black and white photograph of about 4 motorcycle riders cresting a rise in a rural interstate. I immediately was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen, just the look and the feel of it. Then you start opening it up, and there are these incredible photographs, black and white photographs. But in that edition, which was a reissue of Danny Lyon's original book, there were color photographs. And for me, the color photographs just jumped out. I think one of the things that took me the longest was trying to figure out, how to turn a book of photographs into a narrative film. Obviously, there is a lot of text in the book in terms of interviews, but none of that's a story. They're anecdotes. And kind of like training wheels, I actually started with a big section of Kathy's interview where she talks about meeting Benny for the first time. So that actually, it really was. It was like putting, training wheels on to try to get my balance in this story. But from that point on, I really had to start inventing. And the biggest thing that I invented was the idea of this love triangle. The thought that you would have this woman that falls in love with this young, wild guy, but then you have the leader of this club who also falls in love with this young, wild guy. So instead of having a love triangle between 2 guys fighting over the same woman, you have this man and this woman fighting over this young, wild man, which obviously, in this instance, it takes it out of a sexual context only. And it's really more about what is the essence of this guy? What is it about this guy that attracts these 2 people so much so that they're willing to change their lives for him? This idea that there was a specific thing that popped up in a specific place at a specific time, and now it's gone forever. That felt beautiful to me. It felt a little sad, but certainly nostalgic. And I loved the idea that you could have something so potent and so vibrant as it's represented in these photographs that then just is gone. Austin actually came first. So I have to give credit to Brian Cavanaugh Jones, my producing partner. The script has started to circulate, and I think we got an incoming call from Austin's team. At this point, Elvis had not been released. In fact, there hadn't even been a trailer out, but the week that I was supposed to meet Austin, the trailer came out. And I remember looking at it thinking, okay, like, this guy's doing something in this film. Of course, we didn't know to what degree yet, but you could just look at that trailer and say, well, this guy went places for this part. And so on one of my rare trips out to LA, we set up a meeting. It was at a restaurant, and I walked outside to greet him. And this tall guy walks up and holds his hand out. And I just immediately was struck by the fact that this is one of the most beautiful human beings I'd ever seen. He's got this deep voice. He's very polite. He's very sweet. He's very humble. And he was very flattering. He gave me a lot of compliments. All of these are in the plus column. And I just sat there kind of, visiting with him. And it was undeniable that this was a movie star. Francine Maisler, my casting director, tells me, you have to look at Jodie Comer. I start to look at Killing Eve. Obviously, she's very impressive. That show's very dynamic and complex. And then I Zoom with her. And quite frankly, before I got on the Zoom, Francine, she basically called and said, don't mess up. Like, just get her to say yes. Which, takes a bit of my agency away as a director. But Francine had only done that once before. And that was when we were making Midnight Special. She did it with Adam Driver. Before I got on the phone with him, she was like, and who I had no clue who Adam Driver was. She called and was like, don't mess up, get him in the movie. So I felt like this was one of those moments. There are interpretations that Jodie is making into Kathy's character that are far deeper than the words that are on the page. Some of my favorite parts of Jodie's performance aren't just this rapid-fire speech that she's giving. it's the moment right after. It's the moment in between, or it's the thing that she does with her face or with her body posture. It's the kind of work that a director loves to see, because it's one thing to take an accent and break it down, which she did. I was lucky enough one day at the end of one of her shooting days, she left some of her work behind. And, you know, there's a tremendous amount of dialogue for Kathy in the film. And she had taken every single word and phonetically broken it down to memorize it in that accent. Now that's impressive, but what's really impressive is when she performs it, that all disappears. All of that work is invisible. What makes Tom important in the role of Johnny is he can carry that complexity. He can scare the shit out of you, but then he can also have this extreme vulnerability. I don't quite understand it. He's a force of nature when it comes to acting. And I saw it actually at his house in that initial conversation in London. It's like he vibrates a millimeter underneath his skin. There's something going on with Tom Hardy. And when you put the camera on him, it's all happening at once. He can just be sitting there smoking a cigarette, and there's so much going on there. You know, there are movie stars for a reason, and Tom Hardy is a movie star. I think there was a healthy camaraderie between all these guys, you know. Tom especially, though, I think he would ride Austin a little bit, partly because Tom used to be the guy cast in Austin's part. He said that several times. It was all positive, but one time that it actually affected something that I was really happy about was in that opening bar scene when Benny comes over to talk to Kathy. He pulls his chair around and sits down and talks to her. And of course, we very calculated. We'd put Austin in this shirt with the sleeves cut off so you could see his arms and everything else. And after the first take, Tom yells, who's, you know, sitting watching this whole scene because he's in the background watching this whole scene. Tom yells out, "Hey, Austin, just turn your chair around. Just go ahead and turn your chair around." And I'm pretty sure he was joking. Austin did it. And then it gave him something to prop his arms up on, and these massive biceps and triceps and glistening in the light. And it had to be one of the most like erotic moments I'd ever seen on film. And we all just kind of were like, ugh. And so I don't know what Tom was trying to calculate or do there. Maybe it backfired, but it certainly worked for the film. You know, Danny's a really tricky character in the script. Because he is an observer, but he's also, in observing, he's commenting, because he's not part of this world. And as written, I think Danny Lyne was actually far more integrated than our Danny character. You know, in fact, when I showed Danny the film, the real Danny, he loved it, but he also was like, you know, I should have been grungier. Like I didn't quite look that way. And so for me, I think it was important to have a character that could observe without being intrusive. And that's a very difficult thing to ask an actor to do. And I have to give a lot of credit to Mike, because he was willing to just show up and observe, but also still be there, you know, to still be present. I mean, there's so many cutaways to his face. We want to know what he's doing. We want to know how he's judging, you know, the things that are coming out of Kathy's mouth and everyone else's, you know. I mean, the truth is, no one shoots a film like Adam Stone. And I think I'm within my rights to say he shoots films because of the way I direct films. I feel like we've grown together through 6 films. Adam doesn't shoot a lot of other stuff, you know. He's very close to Michael Roy, our gaffer, who's been our gaffer since Take Shelter, you know. So I think there's something about Adam Stone that he just doesn't make films that look like other people's films. They look like my films, and I'm very proud of that.